I organized my character in a way that I can survive no matter what. Well, this is a strong statement, but yeah. And on the like weaknesses that I have to work a lot on my automatic thoughts, my thinking mistakes, my feelings of unsafety and insecurity when it comes to relationships. This is the problem I find with every interview I give, any podcast I'm invited to, any article I write, because there people want a very specific advice.
One answer. And the
we
perfect
hate,
one.
Yeah, exactly. And for all situations, all the people. But yeah, as we talked at the beginning, that uncertainty is something people don't like, and they want black on white. It's easier to understand the world when you have one answer. I don't believe that apps could substitute psychotherapy, or that it can substitute anything in life. And if we talk about self-determination theory, we know that there are three basic needs, which this theory suggests is a need for autonomy, need for competence, and need for relations. So when we need people, we need other people, and they actually very often is a source of motivation as well.
Hello, hello. Nice to see you again. I hope you're having a great summer or winter, depending where you are. Today I was talking to Ieva Vasionytė, who is a psychologist, a psychotherapist, and a consulting psychologist at Kilo Health. Please like, subscribe, and share, and all that jazz. If you're interested or you have suggestions, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn. We'll find the links in the description. So, yeah, have a nice day, have a nice evening, and see you next time.
I will start with this question, okay? Who is Ieva?
Ieva is a person who is, I think, curious about many things, and sometimes it brings a lot of new experiences, a lot of unexpected experiences to my life, and sometimes this brings some chaos in my life as well, because I want to try many things, and sometimes it's just difficult to manage all the things I want to do or I'm trying to do at the same time. So yeah. From professional side, I identify myself as a psychologist, and some changes in my career happened because I wasn't able to identify myself as a psychologist, or to be more precise, that the job became not. I realized that the job I was doing wasn't a part, wasn't helping to feel that I'm still a psychologist. So yeah, so this is another thing, and I think these are two first things that came to my mind when you asked the question.
So a person and a psychologist.
And curious person in
Curious
general.
person.
Yeah, because curiosity is, and I want to learn. I like learning new things. This is something that covers all areas of my life, not only my professional identity. My leisure time is pretty a broad one, so that's why I say that it's a curiosity. It's not related only to my professional life, but my life in general.
Amazing. I think that we start up the agenda for our conversation, because I would like to talk to you about you as a person. Definitely, you're a treasure of different hobbies. Let's keep it easy right now. On those hobbies, we will learn. You definitely have interesting experiences as a professional under your belt, and curiosity, I think, might be an interesting topic for you as a person, but in general, curiosity from a psychological perspective, right? So maybe let's start from the person, okay?
Sure.
What do you think are, let's say, several most important events, positive or negative, that made you today? What do you think?
That's a difficult question. I think that a person is what makes us us. It's, as you probably know yourself, it's like a very, very complex collection of events. And with every year, I noticed that I'm appreciating my parents more and more. And they gave me a lot of liberty and freedom through my life. And I didn't realize that at that moment. But now I don't have problems, didn't have problems with choosing my career. And at that time, when I decided to become a psychologist, it wasn't a very popular subject. And to be a psychologist, to say that I want to be a psychologist was like the same as to say that I want to be an artist. So what it won't bring you money. What will you live from? So these were the reactions, that it's not something very serious and not something that brings financial stability. So, but my parents were like, do what you like, and well, we will support no matter what. And they encouraged me to, if we talk about the curiosity side, so maybe there's another moment that I didn't live in a very safe district of the city. And that's why my parents didn't want me to spend too much time outside because it wasn't very safe. So they made sure that me and my brother had a lot of extracurricular activities at school, and like in sports, in ceramics, art schools, music schools, whatever. So this also gave me a lot of chances to try different things and to understand what I like and what I don't. But it ended up that wherever I go, I find something I like about those activities. So yeah, I think this is another moment. One of the key moments from professional side, but the professional side is a big part of my identity, was when I entered university. I applied for a psychology program, but I didn't get into psychology. I was third behind the entrance level. So I studied sociology for 2 years. Because it was the closest thing to psychology, and at the same faculty of Vilnius University. And then after 2 years, everyone like preaching that it's so good. Sociology is related to statistics, and statistics is related to mathematics. Mathematics is a serious science, and it will bring your career perspectives. It was one summer, the summer after my second year at the sociology, before the third year, and I went to the seashore, to Klaipėda, to spend some time to reflect, and I was walking on the sea, by the sea, when thinking about my life, about how I feel in my life, when I realized that no matter how many people said to me that I made a very good choice not going to psychology, I still felt not okay. I didn't feel happy, and I was still thinking and feeling jealous for people who studied psychology. And I began to cry, and then I called my mother and I said, Mom, I don't know what to do. I want to study psychology. And she was like, oh gosh, so we have to do something about that. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. And then we talked with her for, I don't know, an hour. And then she said, okay, I have a classmate who studied psychology and she works as a psychologist. I will talk to her, that maybe you can talk with her and to know whether this is a good choice. But this interview with that psychologist was more, I think, for my mother, to make her sure that it's a good choice and not for me. And actually, recently, my mother, she met her and they talked, and her classmate said that she tried to um, discouraged from going to psychology 3 people, and I was the only one who still did that. And besides her all efforts to say that it's not a good path, I was the only one who is still working in this area. So yeah, this was a big turning point, because after 2 days, I went to the faculty dean and I said that I want to change my field, and I did all the I prepared a plan how I can do that according to the requirements, and that's it. I started my 3rd year in the university as a second year psychology student. And the important thing happened then. All the people who before told me that it's such a good choice to go to psychology started telling me that, oh, wow, you are so brave and it's so interesting. So psychology, oh, I'm so happy for you. And then I realized that people, they can't choose for you or say what is good for you. And we are the ones who know what is best, the best for us, and to make decisions based on other people's opinions, it's very risky, because you don't know whether they are telling this from their knowledge, from their experience, or whether they are telling just to make you feel good, or to support, or maybe when, yeah, like when parents say that don't go there, go there, they're talking from their own experience, but it's not necessarily mean that your experience will be the same. So this changed my perspective on how much should I trust myself, and how can I use, and how I shouldn't use other people's opinions when I direct my life. Yeah.
You mentioned that people tend to say things that would make us feel good, let's say. I think that oftentimes people say things to make us feel bad as well, right? And I'm sure that you heard a little bit of that as well when people were discouraging you to not study psychology because this is this and that.
But in that case, I don't think that they say to make me feel bad. They say trying to save me, like to, yeah, because they are talking from fear or from their own experience, from their knowledge that they have. So the goal, I don't think that the goal itself is to make me feel bad. They are still trying to support me or to help me choose, but yeah, maybe it's a little bit different things. Do you have experience when people try to say something to make you feel bad?
I'm studying with psychoanalysts right now. So I'm
Okay.
sure you are aware that conscious motivation is not where we start the analysis of a person's behavior. So just because it seems that a person is doing from the best of intentions, we don't stop here. We don't stop what the person says. We try to understand so what is behind that motivation. And I sometimes feel that people uh, they want to make us feel bad in the sense that they want make us lose the experience of knowing what it's like to be bad, what it's like to fail, what it's like to make wrong decisions, whatever that is. And I think we have this right to make wrong decisions. And when people take the responsibility for not allowing us to make wrong decisions, I think that's definitely a bad thing. But I don't mean that they wish that harmfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's what I mean too. That what they do may be harmful for us, but the intention itself,
Yes.
it's not to wish bad.
Yes, the
This
conscious
is
intention. Sure.
yeah, exactly. And well, this is another topic interesting for me, and I think whether person, humans, we are. From when we are born, our intentions are to like to be egoistic at the cost of anything, or are they still that? I mean, do people are? Can we say that people are good and bad people? Yeah, or is it a little bit more complex? And that usually if we do something bad, it's because we get into the conflict between wanting to satisfy our own needs and the conflict between other people's needs. So yeah, but it's another broad discussion.
That's a very interesting topic, actually, because there's a psychoanalyst, Melanie Klein, maybe you have heard of her.
Of course.
So basically, to give some context for listeners, she's like one of the, let's say, founders of semi-modern psychoanalysis, where, let's say, it started with Freud, with classical psychoanalysis. When it comes to drives, that people are driven by death or sex instincts, and basically that's what motivates us. So Melanie Klein was one of those people who, without actually having any degree in anything, challenged Freud and said that no, relationship is what drives us from early years, early beginning. And she had this very she had very esoteric terms to describe a very simple process, but basically she said that for a newborn, but also for an adult person, it's important to develop the ability to stay in a depressive position. And what she meant by depressive position is that people are good and bad. Their world is good and bad, and it's both essentially. Whereas when people are unable to do that, they are basically engaging in so-called defense mechanism splitting. They're trying to ensure that people are either good or either bad. My father is either good or either bad, and it makes us, make difficult decisions when we're living in this split world. So I guess where I was coming from is this particular idea that when people are saying something, there's probably more to their ideas and to their intentions than just their words, I guess.
Yeah, and that's makes an interesting connection for me that when they, for example, say that sociology is good and psychology is bad, it comes from the same splitting position that they want some clarity in their lives. They want, and then it's difficult to be with that uncertainty that in some cases psychology might be very good and in some cases it might be really not the thing for a person. Yeah, so
we will definitely talk more about psychology, but if you don't mind, I would like to go back to that, what you described in the beginning. I definitely found it curious, the fact that you lived in a not safe environment. So if I remember correctly, you were born in Kaunas.
Yes.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Kaunas is the second largest city in Lithuania. And yeah, let's be honest, it has a reputation, right?
Oh, come on, but I'm still...
Look, I don't say bad or good reputation. I'm just saying a reputation, okay?
A reputation, but come on, from your the way you said it, from your intonation, you can determine what kind of reputation you are talking about. But I mean that within Kaunas, I was living in one of apparently the most dangerous district in 2006. Yeah, so
What was it, Vilijampolė?
No, it was Dainava.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was the most dangerous district, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel very dangerous, but like very unsafe there. But when in the very late hours, it wasn't very cozy to walk outside, and we had in the yard outside of those buildings, we had wooden table with wooden like chairs, benches, and every evening you could see around 6 or 8 people drinking there, and their kids running around. So I was so-called friends at that time with those kids. So I mean that we used to play with them a little bit, but still, I remember my parents walking me through those people and saying that if you won't study, you will end up like them. So till today, I don't feel very comfortable around drunk people. And I think that this is because of that experience, that it was always for me positioned as something dangerous, something not good. Yeah, something I should stay away from.
And actually, that's what I was trying to explore with you, because although the district might have not been the safest one, and to be honest, what city was very safe at that time? We're talking about like late 2000s, right? So that's the time in Lithuania when where still was a very young democracy, and there was still a lot of crime happening. Um, in our country, a lot of robberies, a lot of what's the word, when you basically come into a restaurant and you intimidate the person that if you don't do that, if you don't do this, we will do that. So that was like daily life
Yeah.
for many people. So that definitely doesn't sound like a safe environment. I spent actually my own childhood in such environments. So I'm not from Kaunas, I'm from Alytus, not better than Kaunas. Same gopniks, same drunk people. So yeah, we had our own mafia, our own clan. So not that I was a clan member, but just saying, you know. So, but what you're mentioning is also that despite the fact internally in your family system, there was, it seems, safety, acceptance, curiosity. So it's interesting just to reflect on that. When the outside is dangerous, there is some self-organizing principle to find safety inside the system, and it seems that it contributed fine to your development.
Yes, and another interesting thing is that despite the outside environment not being so um, safe, um, I don't feel unsafe in the world. Yeah, so this is probably because of my family, and um I was still pretty raised pretty independently. I mean that I could, I my school, my music school was in another district of the city, in the city center. So I had to drive every day for 40 minutes to school. So in the first grade, my parents used to
By the
drive
way,
me.
40 minutes is a lot in the
Yeah, in
Lithuanian
Lithuania,
city.
it is a
It's
lot.
not like London where you take 3 hours to come from one place to the other.
Exactly. That's a good point to mention. Yeah, so in Lithuania, 40 minutes is a lot by public transport. And in the first grade, my dad used to drive me because he was working close to my school. But after, in the second grade, I started going to the school alone. And it was pretty usual experience for me from 7, 8 years old to go around the city, to go even to the doctor, maybe not at 8 years, but from 12 years, I used to go to the doctor alone. and I was pretty independent. So this is an interesting combination that somehow that unsafety I located in my mind to a very specific group of people and to very specific criteria of of people, of environment that signal that it's not very safe. But to try new things, to organize my life, I had a lot of freedom, and I was from my parents. I was encouraged to do that on my own. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely makes me think about experiments done on attachment. I'm sure you also heard of this term. Was it Bowlby, right, who developed it?
Yeah.
John Bowlby? Was it his name? John? Jack? John, I think John. I have to Google. Sure. I want to honor this guy because he's wonderful. John.
It's not John.
It's John.
John? It's John. Okay.
It's John. Yeah, and basically, just to give some context for people who don't know, it's essentially our way to navigate the world. How much do we see the world as safe or not safe? And I think the most important thing we have to take from attachment theory is that when the mother or father is close and in tune with a child's needs, for example, when the child cries, it's responsive, the parent is responsive to their needs. Or when, for example, the child is playful, there is a smile on our face, we're in tune, right? And we're trying basically to feel what the child feels and just give back to the child, and which basically develops empathy, you know, for this process. The child develops also selfhood. And when children had this particular environment, they feel much more confident to explore, to go out, as long as they see that the parent is somewhere near in their proximity. And I think that, sorry for psychoanalyzing, but just having a curious thought that, you know, when you have a safe environment inside, when there is trust and support, and it seems that you had definitely a supportive family, so it's much more safer to go to South Korea, you know, alone, for example, right?
Well, yeah, yeah, I mean, there's
of course, there's nuance. I'm painting a very ideal picture, right?
Yeah, that's true. There were also some aspects which made me more vulnerable to other things and strong in other areas. So yeah, but in general, I think that I was pretty safe inside my family. Yeah.
Maintaining public relations, and speaking of vulnerabilities, any, let's say, vulnerability that maybe seemed as a vulnerability in the beginning, but maybe after some self-development, self-reflection, you feel that now it became your strength. Anything you would like to brag about in terms of vulnerabilities as strengths in Ieva's psychology? What do you think? And anything specific?
Maybe if I give it more reflection, I would answer it differently. But for now, so also one of the major events in my life that really affected my personality was when I was 7 years old. My grandmother died, and we were really, really close with her. And it was really unexpected, and somehow this death made me feel unsafe within the relationships. So I feel from the very beginning of my childhood, I feel very safe on my own. And I think this is the reason why I can travel alone to South Korea and many other places. And I don't feel uncomfortable or have any insecurities about that. But when it comes to personal relationships, this was something I worked a lot in my therapy. Because I developed many fears from that event that if I do something, I might lose a person that is important to me. So that made me a little bit scared to make connections in general. And if I make a connection somehow, usually, there's this joke that introverts are always looking for some extrovert to adopt them. So this is my approach in life. So if I make some friends, I have those fears that I might lose them. And this affects my relationships, I think. So from this is my vulnerability, and if looking from those strengths, so this is independency that I have, that I organized my character in a way that I can survive no matter what. Well, this is a strong statement, but yeah. And on the weaknesses, that I have to work a lot on my automatic thoughts, my thinking mistakes, my feelings of unsafety and insecurity when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, I think that's very reflectable, Ieva. Thanks for sharing. I definitely resonate on that personally. I think that also has something to do with attachment. And there are these attachment styles. There is a secure one, there is a preoccupied, there is a avoidant one. We won't get into the definitions. People can basically Google that. But I definitely have some avoidance around relationships, and that's probably because I like to stay in control. I like to ensure that things are as I would like them to be. And of course, that's a horrible thing to have in your relationship, because you have to be flexible and adaptive. We're trying to be a team, and now suddenly someone is being a tyrant. So that's not good. And my partner would definitely attest to that. so there is of that. But of course, as you said, working on that, it makes things a bit easier, because at least you understand what is going on, so you can be more aware, more mindful, and catch those impulsive behaviors at the moment, and or at least ask for forgiveness. Then let's say I don't know, you do something. What could be a good example? For example, a very fresh one. I suggested my partner to study music therapy, and it's not something that she didn't want to do. She was looking for a meaningful venture, but now she's just trying to think, oh, is it a good decision? Do I really want to do this? And I feel that yes, you want to do it. That's for you. You will learn something new, and you will use your musical background, blah blah blah. But yeah, I realized, look, she has to make her decision, and yeah, that's basically what we're working on. So I totally can relate to that. I'm not sure is it on the same level or not, but definitely relate.
Yeah, that's true. And when you feel, when I used to feel scared of losing people that are important to me, I train myself to notice their emotions very well, like to avoid conflict, to avoid like hurting them and things like that. So it's not very good on making sure my own needs are satisfied. But so this is a huge thanks to my therapist, my two therapies that I went through. But as a psychologist, I guess it gives me, and not as a psychologist, as friends, as a friend as well, as a partner as well. I think I'm pretty good at noticing other people's emotions. What are they going through?
Yeah, I think that's another thing. And I think there are two types of avoidances. I think there are people like you who maybe are more on the agreeable side, and they tend to be, at least they feel the urge to be flexible, although maybe internally they don't want to be very flexible. So you think about, okay, I don't want to be too flexible, so I will avoid. Whereas I avoid because I make people anxious, and their anxiety make me anxious. So I feel I don't need this, so too much emotion, right?
Okay.
So I'm not an
Okay.
agreeable person. You probably know that I
Yeah.
I needed to learn flexibility, and because it's annoying to other people, of course, then it's annoying to me because they are not
Mhm.
happy, for example. So yeah, it's interesting
Mm.
how a similar pattern can mm, emerge
And
in different behaviors,
yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
Okay, so talking about psychology, because I see our time and we have a lot of interesting topics to cover. So if you don't mind, let's go to a more technical side of our lives. So it will be still personal what I'm interested in. So you seem very eager to study psychology, even after 2 years of doing sociology and getting like a lot of positive uh, um, encouragement to continue doing that, because for some reason people felt that being a sociologist is something what well paying. I'm not sure. I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know. I think that
I
it's
don't
just,
know.
at that moment it was
Yeah,
some mystical science, and they didn't
yeah,
know exactly what does it mean. But if it's mystical, maybe it's good. I don't know.
yeah. I don't think that. Sorry for sociologists, they will correct me, but yeah, I think psychology is much more well paid, even in Lithuania, because how horrible does it seem? There are a lot of suffering people, and as long as they are suffering, there will be people who will have to help people go through suffering. And I think one of the reasons why we get into psychology, I'm not sure is it in your case, but it's usually our own trauma or others' trauma that basically pushes to that direction. So what was in your case when you think about it, the key motivation, the key source of curiosity that fueled your desire to become a psychologist? What do you think?
Well, I think my school year was that motive, because my motives came, well, probably of course from childhood experiences, but I mean my school, it was a good school. It was one of the best ones at that time in Kaunas, but my class wasn't very friendly,
What was
so
the
to
word?
say.
What wasn't
The
friendly?
class,
The
the
class.
class wasn't, yeah, my class wasn't very friendly, and the when from time to time I meet my classmates now, after like I don't know how many, 15 years after school, I realize that all of us had the struggle how to be
Mm,
accepted by the classmates, but we used different strategies to do that. So some of them used to become
mm,
bullies. Some of them used to do what popular guys do, so that they are in the elite of the class.
mhm,
I was the one which chose my strategy to be independent and to be on my own and to show that I don't need other people to survive and thrive. So, but still, I was an observer. I looked at what was happening. I also experienced bullying, and I had this question:
yeah.
why people are behaving that?
Mm,
I didn't do anything wrong to them, and the other people who were bullied, they didn't do anything wrong. They are good people, as much as I know. So why these things are happening? And I think, at least what I'm explaining to myself, how I ended up in psychology, was to get the answer
mhm,
why it happened. And I think that I had some qualities, personal qualities, which, like that agreeableness, was within me from the very, very early ages. I remember when in the first or second grade, we had to be vaccinated at school, and in the list, I was the last one, and we were going according to the list. So other children, they were also afraid of being vaccinated, of the needles, and they were nervous. Maybe they were crying. So I cheered all of them. I tried to tell the story about the parents might told me from some cartoon that it's safe, it's okay, it's just yeah, it's very short and it will end soon and blah blah blah. So everyone were encouraged and they were calm. They went, gave got their vaccine and then left. I was the last one, so I cried for all the class. So yeah, I think that I had that skill to make people feel good and calm around me from the very early age.
Like some service mentality that emerged already in the early years. Interesting. Yeah, when I think about my own bullying experience, and unfortunately, I'm not sure what about other countries, but in a post-Soviet country like Lithuania, there was a lot of it, and I think there are still a lot of it, unfortunately. I don't have the statistics at hand, but yeah, I realized that what was the wrong that I did to the group, and I only realized that actually only upon a lot of reflection, is that you are different. You're not trying to be as us, and we take it as an insult. And I think that in a group setting, that's like that can be detrimental to a group because it can put a group's ability to survive at risk in a way. And I realized that, yeah, I was a black sheep. My mother was a school teacher at the school where I was studying, so that's one factor.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was good at various subjects, so there's already jealousy taking place. And yeah, actually, some teachers liked me. I'm not sure whether because I was my mother was a teacher and they had good relationship, but there is a darker story to that. There were teachers who didn't like my mother, and for some reason they didn't like me. So there was a lot to this, and yeah, we are from CBT world at our course, and I try to look for some compassion. I realize that okay, these are very vulnerable spirits that are doing this to me, and some are just participating because they of fear to be rejected as well. Others are basically just projecting out, acting out their own trauma from their own families. So I think that to some bullies, I even forgave in my dreams. Yeah, so these are very interesting experiences.
What do you
So,
mean?
so basically, you're
Forgave in
having a
dreams?
dream and you're meeting
Okay.
the bully and you're hugging the person and saying, I forgave you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
Okay.
interesting, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I also can relate to that. And yeah, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think that bullying itself is somehow a part of teenage years. It's not a good part, but um, even if, well, I think that the experts here are children and youth psychologists, and so it's just an opinion and a thought, not a fact, that when you are a teenager, you don't really understand how your words might affect other people. And that's why sometimes you don't think that you are bullying or harming, even if you have all those, I don't know, lessons about that bullying is bad. You still think that the things you say, it's not bullying, it's just making a joke, it's just
Yeah, being
being funny.
playful. Yeah,
Yeah,
teasing.
exactly. And you don't know how the things affect other people. So, yeah, that's why I think that it's pretty difficult task to eliminate bullying from schools. because of the development of the personalities and the stage that young people are in at that period. So yeah, many people will be still affected even.
I like where we are focusing on right now, because one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about is your experience as a consulting psychologist, counseling or consulting. And if I remember correctly, you worked as a career consultant at Vilnius University. So that's an organization that involves not children anymore. These are young adults. And you're also working right now on various mental health products in another organization that also involves only adults. And in my own organizational experience, bullying is there as well, actually. And when you said that it's part of being a teenager, I think that it's part of being a human in certain settings. In a way, bullying as in a way defensive mechanism, just to harm someone before they harmed you, in a way, basically. So I'm sure I don't want to put any of your previous employers under the spotlight, but just speaking generally, anything on this topic that you learned after working with young adults or adults in general about bullying, or just, the need to induce pain. Any thoughts around that? Why do adults need, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you are right that bullying doesn't end with the high school. But recently I was listening to the podcast about humor. And it was from the podcast, The Next Big Idea. And it was about humor styles. And that there is one of the humor styles. I don't remember how it's called, but when you joke about at the expense of other people. So, and it's about adults, it's not about children. So yeah, I think that agree with you that you say that we joke about others or bully others so that we wouldn't be hurt ourselves. It's when you feel a little bit unsafe, or you feel that your maybe authority might be damaged. You use bullying or sarcasm as a tool to reestablish your authority. And at the same time, we are not always conscious, again, that we are harming another person. And because in some cases, it can be very personal experiences. Like I remember that my colleague at one of the workplaces got very angry with me because I decided to change the place of some umbrellas in the office. And
wait a minute. What umbrellas? Like
umbrellas? Yeah, that umbrella. There was a bunch of umbrellas, like 20 umbrellas, and I needed a space in the shelf. And I asked her, is it okay if I move those umbrellas to the storage? And she just got, what are you doing? What's happening? Why? Blah 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 blah. So and later she explained me when she calmed herself down. She explained me that this moment when I said that I want to move her umbrellas because she was responsible for them to another place resonated for her with her experience when her sister in her childhood used to move the furniture in the room without asking her. So it's like this is what I mean, that sometimes we might hurt another person without even knowing that, without having any intention to hurt them. And in other cases, we think that it's just a joke, but the other person gets hurt. And not all of us are very good at emotional awareness or emotional literacy in general. There are people who have alexithymia. They don't understand their own emotions, and they don't understand how they are not very good at reading other people's emotions. So yeah, I think that there are a lot of factors that might affect our ability to joke safely. And
you know, to be really honest, and I'm guilty of that as well. I think you don't have to have a disorder like alexithymia to demonstrate deficits of emotional intelligence. So we all tend to be impulsive sometimes, angry, and say awful things to the other people. We might be even very harmful to ourselves when we are saying bad words about ourselves. Oh, I'm ugly, or I'm unprofessional, I'm this, I'm that. That's also lack of emotional intelligence. It's just directed internally, right? So now I'll make a very smart way to segue to a different topic, because I think that these kind of topics like emotional intelligence, self-knowledge, can be very well addressed by various mental health apps. And that's actually a front that you are working on. So maybe to start this part of our conversation, maybe you can just tell me and listeners what it's like to work. Basically, what are you doing essentially in this kind of product? Yeah, just to give some context.
Yeah, after almost an hour, I can finally say why I am here.
No, that's the first part why you're here, because without that first part, you wouldn't be Ieva as it is. So
okay, that's smart. That's smart. Okay, I take that. Yeah. So I used to work at university before where I am now, and one of my interests was habit formation. It wasn't related to my job at a university, but I was interested in how people form habits, and why for some people it's easier, for example, to lose weight, to quit smoking, to exercise, and for the others it might be more difficult. And I was reading on my own, exploring those topics, and I tried to. I succeeded to go into PhD to study, but after 2 years and to explore this topic in more deeply. But then after 2 years, I decided to quit PhD and to go maybe more into practice. It's a long story.
But probably I know the answer, because usually it's one of the two. Either it's an awful supervisor or awful system, or both.
So
okay, let's go on.
Let's continue. I won't say that you are not
right or wrong.
Right. Yeah. So then I still stayed at the university, but working as you mentioned, as a career consultant, and I was still working at the university mental health counseling center. And after 3.5 years, I almost forgot that topic of habit formation. It was still in my LinkedIn profile, but I was like thinking maybe I should delete it. I don't do anything with that, but it doesn't harm me. I can still leave it. So I left it, and 2.5 years ago, I was contacted by Kilo Health. It's one of the IT companies based in Lithuania, working on digital wellness and health products. And they asked me whether I would be interested to collaborate with them on the and be responsible for behavioral change side of the product. So how to use products to those apps, and how to create those apps that they would help people to change their behavior for the better. And at the beginning, it was like for chronic diseases. They were thinking about creating products for chronic diseases and where people need to change their lifestyle, like exercising habits, eating habits, and so on, and how we can do that. So it was like, wow, I even a few years ago before this talk, I even had a blog where I used to write about habit formation, and I then went to PhD to do PhD in that sector. And then I said, okay, Lithuania don't need this topic at this moment. I have to move on. And then those guys came and said, come, we need you. So it was very refreshing, and I already started having doubts about my work as a career consultant, and this was an opportunity. So
why did you have doubts?
Well, as I mentioned at the very beginning, that it was, I remember well, one conversation with my team leader at the University Career Center. She said one sentence that I said that I want to work more on psychological subjects, and psychologist is my first identity. And she said to me, but your identity is already in Vilnius University, not as a psychologist, but as a career consultant. And that like struck me into the heart, because this was not something I would like to be. And when I agreed to work as a career consultant, for me, it was like a temporary
just a
job.
job, basically.
Yeah, and it was something temporary that I will change. But after when you are in a position for 3.5 years, is it still temporary? So yeah, so that's why I began to have doubts whether this is my place, whether I want to stay there, and if I want to move on to somewhere, that it's time to do that now. So yeah, I then started like a very small part of my time, like 10 hours per week, to work for Kilo Health. And we worked on the behavior change, and it was a process of learning for me, because we didn't have, and we still don't have, experts on behavioral science and behavior change in Lithuania.
Yeah.
And so I could learn only from books and things like that. So it was pretty difficult, but then actually I switched my role in Kilo Health, because as my strong side was still as a psychologist, and they started having some products or some features within products related to mental health.
Yeah.
So they started to ask my consultancy on those features on mental health products. And then after a year, maybe less in Kilo, they decided to have a product for habit formation. And they asked me, and it was the first product that had a system of, like they gave us 1 year, or I don't know what was the agreement with my team leader, the owner of the product, but we had the whole year to build the product, how it will look like, to base everything on scientific research, to understand, to consult with behavioral experts. And we do that on how to build a product which would really help people to build habits.
Yeah.
So the whole year we worked on that product. So I was working on the behavioral part. Those how to form habits. But the biggest part I worked on was the content related to habit formation and emotional health, psychology. And now when we have a bigger team, at the beginning we were only 3 people, and now we have, I think, more than 20, because the product was released in November, last year, November, and I am responsible for the mental health content. to plan it, how it will look like, what features do we need, how to build them, what the content will be. So this is the thing I'm working on now. And from time to time, sometimes I still consult other products if they ask to review some content, again, related to mental health. And sometimes, but now not so often, do the consulting for the behavioral change part. But now we have a real expert with a much more experience, like real practical experience on that topic. So he now helps with that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for the context. And yeah, I have also to disclose my conflict of interest because I'm also hired by Kilo as an external consultant for other things, and worked a little bit on an app, one of the apps. But just a side note, the podcast is not sponsored by Kilo Health, so we're just sharing some biographical facts, right? So yeah, one of the topics I wanted to discuss with you, and it's also related to habits, and just want to pick your brains on that if you don't mind. You know, all of those apps have one particular problem. And the problem is that you need to form a habit to use the app.
Yeah, that's the real problem with any app.
Yes. And personally, ethically, I don't like the techniques that are used to engage us and form those habits. So for example, I always turn off notifications for most of the apps. So I'm like putting barriers, so to speak. The other thing is I don't like when my email is bombarded by the product. So I unsubscribe usually. And what I end up is basically, no like invitations to, hey, engage, use the app, So I'm just thinking, just because there's also the topic of internet addiction, phone addiction. It sometimes seems that we are kind of playing with the devil. We're just trying to provide value to people and, hey, look, there's interesting content. Make sure to read it, do the exercises, you will feel better. But at the same time, you are competing with all the other apps that might not necessarily be healthy to you, like checking your Instagram stories, counting likes, seeing whether your post was interesting and engaging, and or being sad that it's not engaging or interesting, my own story daily, for example.
Me too, guilty of that.
So I don't like anything about this. It seems like, maybe we can just do something without those apps, maybe. But then again, we have to innovate. We have to use the technology that is being used, and phones are like our third hands. So it's kind of impossible to avoid them nowadays. So yeah, just any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the first thought that comes to my mind is Cal Newport book, Digital Minimalism. And he wrote a lot about those negative effects that the apps, social media has on us, on our mental health, on our productivity, and so on. But if when you hear the title Digital Minimalism, probably you imagine switching off, deleting all your email apps, all your productivity apps, all your apps in general, and just having Nokia 3410.
Dummy phone, for example.
Yeah, dummy phone. Exactly. But this is not what he said. His approach is that to be mindful about how much do you of those apps and social media do you actually need. And the details that he offers as a tool, and it's pretty popular now, but sometimes they just say do the digital detox, but don't explain what to do afterwards.
What is a digital detox?
Well, digital detox is deleting all your social media, like the apps that eat your time, from your phone. and maybe putting the blocks for some apps on your computer, for example, like that social media apps, yeah, or maybe you are scrolling through the news feed and maybe putting blocks for that. And then spending some, it's like any detox, it can be done one day per week. It can be done for 1 month. It can be done for like specific hours of your day. So the approach, I read that book last summer, so maybe I don't remember very well, but like he offers to do the detox for 30 days. And then to have a rule specific, for example, your work requires you to use Slack or to use Microsoft Teams or some email. You still need to read email, yeah. But maybe then you have some rules when you can use that app, and which apps you delete completely and which you have limited use. So after 30 days, what you do, you make a reflection, what are you missing in your life from all those apps and technologies in general. And if you miss something which was really fulfilling your life, adding some value to your life, you reintroduce that app into your life. And that detox, it helps you to understand what you are using out of the habit or because of attention economy. I mean that because there are lots of people who working on the products that they are engaging and that you would use them daily. And then you reflect on what you really need. And maybe you really need social media, but then if you need the Instagram, so what do you want to use Instagram for? And maybe you will decide to delete all the I don't know, news that you follow, which is like just or cat videos, and you just decide to concentrate on those specific 20 people that gives really good information, something that makes you feel good, even if it's a cat video, or gives some knowledge to you, and so on. So I don't think that we should live in the Stone Age and and get rid of all the apps, but like to more reflect on what we are using them for and whether they make us happier or more miserable.
I'm smelling a little bit of black and white thinking here. because I delete that smartphone or all those apps doesn't mean that I'm in the Stone Age. Maybe I've been something more modern, but still not that more. But I hear what you're saying, Ieva. You know, I guess the idea that I'm taking from is that just be experimental around your habits and essentially have this diet, 30 days diet, let's say, without smartphone apps or most apps, and just, you know, observe yourself. What do you actually need? What is actually useful from a psychological needs perspective? So, okay, am I just burning time or am I actually learning something? But, you know, I still want to be practical about it. So I will give you an example, okay? And let's try to work with this. So I'm someone who is experiencing anxiety. Or let's take even something even more. I'm experiencing ADHD. And I'm Googling ADHD. What is this? What is that? What should I do? And then I get an ad. Hey, there's an app. Maybe you would like to work on your ADHD. Okay, I want to work on my ADHD. I download it. I start using it. And upon some time, I just get confused in the whole plethora of apps that I have in my phone, and I stop using it. And then I listen to this podcast and I hear a wonderful idea from Ieva that is taken from Newport's book. Hey, do a detox. And let's say that I decide to do the detox and I realize, well, but that ADHD, I don't have time to work on it. It's too effortful. It's just do those emotional diary reflections. Is there something easier? Can I just take a pill and just have a trip and just that would be the solution? Yeah. So I'm thinking, after the detox, there still can be some denial around one's willingness to face one's demons, face those traumas maybe, or symptoms or causes that cause maybe that ADHD, and that's definitely a huge quirk, So as you probably know, we are avoidant. If we can, we will avoid things usually. So I can't imagine a situation after that detox that I wouldn't continue with that because, for the reasons mentioned. So any thoughts? I'm just trying to be constructive, not putting you under the spot, just inviting you to think. So how can we motivate people to be curiosity, right? Around their dark sides, their psychological problems, and decide to keep the app after those 30 days? Any ideas?
I have a few thoughts to put in order. First, we actually are thinking now about implementing some content for ADHD, but we will work with consultants who work with the people with ADHD. And from our initial calls, it appears that they usually don't advise using apps at all for ADHD. And the approach for people who have ADHD is to use as little as possible digital devices because they are very distracting. And if they can choose it, so choose paper and pencil instead of the app. Whenever it's for planning, for I don't know, note taking or reading books, not on the app, read the books, physical books, and so on. So ADHD maybe not, it's not the best example.
Not a good example.
Yeah, well, they still sometimes suggest apps, but like very specific apps for very specific single tasks, which are not too overwhelming, because the more content you have within the app, the more difficult is, the more distracting the app is for the ADHD user. But I wouldn't say that you need to do 30 days of detox. I mean, it's more about finding way to be mindful about your usage habits. And, this is the problem I find with every interview I give, any podcast I'm invited to, any article I write, because there people want a very specific advice.
One answer. And the perfect one.
Yeah, exactly. And for all situations, all the people. But as we talked at the beginning, that uncertainty is something people don't like, and they want black on white. It's easier to understand the world when you have one answer. So as a therapist, which is my other job, I would say that every case is different, and you have to get familiar with the person itself and not try to give them rules that do this and not that. So I'm a big fan of mindfulness and all that awareness of how are we functioning. And if we feel bad, we all want to feel happier. Most of us. There are some conditions when people like to feel miserable, but usually we like feel good. It's of course impossible to feel good all the time, but we are about how to improve our lives, how to improve our mood. So reflect on what is helpful and what is not helpful. And with the same app, some features might be helpful and the others might not. And I will never say that our app is the best app in the world for the habit formation, because we have our users that benefit from our product, but this I'm speaking, if someone from Kilo Health is listening, I'm speaking as a psychotherapist and not as a, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much conflict of interest do I have at the moment. Okay, but okay, it's I don't know. I just got lost at the moment.
Help me.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a I don't know news that people use different apps and every app has its own users, and that's why apps we have iPhone and we have like I don't know. Nokia, some Samsung phones, and there are people who hate Apple, and there are people who love Apple, and there are reasons for that. Yeah, so it's the same with I mean, be mindful, reflect on your experience, and if you feel miserable in your life or you feel anxious, and reflect how do you feel after using each of the apps. Does it make you feel a little bit more calmer? Or more happier, or do you feel sad after using or more anxious? And then try to reflect what within the app makes you feel that way. And in general, if we talk about research, so social media use is closely, highly correlated with depressive symptoms and social anxiety. So these groups especially have to monitor their app usage, especially the social media usage, and to understand what behavior makes them feel in what way.
Yeah.
I feel like I said a lot of random thoughts on many topics and nothing.
Let's de-randomize. I will try to share what you triggered in me. Okay. So yeah, I think what was just a meta comment, what you did very smart in this conversation is that you pinpointed something that I was talking in the beginning. I was looking for the perfect app. I was looking for the app that is somehow not intrusive, but at the same time inviting to work on ourselves, right? And actually feel motivated to I guess I will keep repeating, but working on those traumas and difficult experiences and difficult feelings and emotions and thoughts that usually contribute to all those disorders. ADHD, depression, anxiety. In my view, these are oftentimes just manifestations that just are cluttered in certain way. But at the end of the day, the experience is at the core that we are working on as a therapist, right? As a counselors. So what I'm taking from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that essentially mindfulness, or as I would define it, self-awareness, or ability to be curious around one's thoughts and curious around our experience is what can be helpful. Now, when I think about it, I consider myself somewhat mindful person, maybe more self-aware than mindful. I'm still triggered by, what's the word? Triggered by stressors, triggered by things from the environment, right? Noises, sounds, or whatever. I'm not like the Buddha who just sits with all the experiences, taking everything in, observing all thoughts, and just being with the environment, being with the nature, being with the world. I'm
exaggerating.
Sure. But I'm not that, and probably no one is like that, right?
Yeah, so mindfulness is not about like sitting.
Yeah, but some people imagine that, to become enlightened because it's somehow being not affected by anything, basically just being somehow very affective, right? But yeah, that's I guess where I'm going with this rant is that for those mindful people, and I consider you a mindful person, Ieva, you probably don't need those apps. So you are either in that group who are not very mindful and they are struggling with those technologies already, and they get another technology that makes them struggle because we already discussed you need a habit. But then if you are mindful enough, can you benefit from these technologies? You can just, go to the nature, observe your thoughts, observe your sensations, try not to be judgmental, try to be self-compassionate. Do that every day for 30 minutes and you'll be fine. Right? No? Am I exaggerating?
I use apps. I use this for meditation. I use app.
Which one do you use?
I am a big fan of Waking Up.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty simple and have simple in the usage. It's very mindful, I guess, that it's very clear where everything is and very intuitive and not overloaded with features. So I love that app and I use it for meditation. And with time, if you don't I noticed that if I don't read or gather knowledge in the field, whatever it is, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's self-awareness, whether it's, I don't know, habit formation, I lose my skills and I start to degrade as my expertise or my skills start to degrade. So no matter what are you getting good at, the process of learning is endless. I don't think that you can, maybe if it's about, I don't know, changing the light bulb, then yes, probably it's a very simple skill that you learn how to change the light bulb and that's it. But when we talk about those soft skills, it's an endless process of learning. For the I had two more thoughts. So, okay, one thought that I remember, the other I don't remember. So about the apps for people who have maybe some, if we talk about mental health improvements, I think that we can offer our clients apps to train some skills. Yeah, our clients, I mean, if we work as a therapist,
okay,
and we have clients, and people in general who want to improve their emotional well-being, they can use some apps for some skill training or some tools, for example, as a journaling tool. You can write journaling in your notebook, and it's the old-fashioned, so I prefer this way, but excuse me, if you find it more convenient to use the app, there are apps for that, and they can even give you some guidance on some prompts for journaling. You can use the app for mood tracking as well, and you can, if that's convenient for you, and this would help you to simplify, for example, how your mood, how your daily activities are related to your mood. So there are specific skills that can benefit from the apps. Yeah, so this was my thought, and the other.
Can I take it from here? Because sure. I got a strong epiphany, I think, and that's probably the problem that I found myself in this conversation is, as I said, that I'm looking for the solution. But what you, I think, indirectly suggested is that when we're talking about mental health or even well-being in general, the system is what matters. So not only, okay, so therapy, physical exercise, diet, sleep, lifestyle, hobbies, and maybe some mental health apps, right? Maybe for meditation, maybe for mood tracking. And I think sometimes where we get the problem is that, okay, I will use one solution and it will be a solution for all the problems, right? problems are complicated, right? Because the system is complicated, brain is complicated. So I think it makes sense, to look holistically and see this particular technology as an aid, for example, in psychotherapy, or someone individually working on themselves, and don't have this probably idea that I might have had that, okay, maybe this is the beginning of a new era. Maybe we will end up at a point where we'll need just one solution, and it will be a solution to all problems, for example. So yeah, this is the idea, I guess, I got from what you were saying. Yeah, that it can be combined. And another thing that I took is that, and I'm not sure if you avoided this, but I'm still trying to figure out how to, even if it's just an aid, how to get that rationale, that reason, that impulse, that will to open the app and use it properly. And I was thinking about, because that's also a topic that we wanted to discuss, is motivation. Is there a reason to think that some people who drop those apps, they don't have a good motivating reason to do that? Any thoughts around motivation in this context?
Well, yeah, motivation is a very complex subject. Me personally, I'm a big fan of self-determination theory.
Yeah, intrinsic motivation, in a sense, not something external, that comes from within, from your values, from your needs. Yeah, something around that.
Yes, so if we talk about intrinsic motivation, that we just enjoy doing something, it's not the only source of motivation. Even if we talk about extrinsic motivation, there are, for example, I do something not because for example, I don't know, okay, I don't eat sweets, but I do it not because I hate sweets. I love sweets. This is my guilty pleasure. Oh my God. This is my addiction, actually.
Yeah.
But I don't eat sweets because I understand taking care of my health is important for me. So this is also a motivation. Like not so strong motivation not to eat sweets would be I don't eat sweets because my partner says that I'm fat. This is external motivation, very external motivation. And or I don't eat sweets because I feel ashamed of my body. This is also, it's not a very strong motivation, and usually this motivation is overridden by other needs, which we then end up comforting with the food, for example. So yeah, so when we talk about app usage and motivation, it's a very complex subject. I think that one thing, the apps are not very good at substituting is the relationships that we also mentioned in the beginning of our talk discussion, because I don't believe that apps could substitute psychotherapy, or that it can substitute anything in life. And if we talk about self-determination theory, we know that there are three basic needs, which this theory suggests is the need for autonomy, need for competence, and need for relations. So when we need people, we need other people, and they actually very often is a source of motivation as well, to be with someone, to relate with someone, and to talk with someone. And they are having people around us is a big source of our happiness as well. I mean, I'm talking about close people, about people who make us feel safe, with whom we can share our experiences. And when we talk about mental health, it's impossible to exclude. I mean, we need to include people and our relationships with them. So this apps can assist, but they can't assist. I mean, in during the pandemic, apps were a huge source of help to connect with our significant others. But still, it's not live contact, eye to eye will be very important. So I wanted to mention that. And when we talk about motivation to use some specific app, app creators work a lot on the engagement. So this is a thing sometimes I get in conflict about because you can use all those strategies to engage user to get money. And business paid apps are always almost always about money, because you need to make the app for the users. You need to get money from the users.
Yeah, you have to develop it, you have to maintain it, and you want to earn from it. So that's business.
Exactly. So this is unavoidable to think about money, and use some tools, some strategies to earn money from the app and from the users. But at the same time, those strategies can be used for the benefits of the user, and I think the benefit of the app, because the happy user pays for the app, is for habit formation. So, for example, simplicity is one of the principles to use in the app, because if it's too difficult, it becomes overwhelming, and you don't need to have ADHD to be overwhelmed by some content or app. The app should be intuitive, like that. People who are listening, they are good at this, at UX UI, so they know all those things. For example, simplifying and this is I think the thing where app can be helpful. Can help you simplify some tasks. For example, if I work in the therapy with and the therapist says that I need to track my thoughts, and if we are talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, so the app can guide you through the process. It can give you notifications to remind you that, hey, do you remember that you're working on tracking your thoughts to increase your awareness, self-awareness. So notifications help you to remember when to do that. The guidance that when you open the app and they say that, look, write this, like what's the situation? How do you feel? What thoughts do you have? It can, simple steps, the more simple and the less steps you have to do, the more you will be willing to come back and do that action again. So this is simplicity, and simple little steps is something that helps a person to have a sense of achievement, competence, that he can do that, or she, and continue using. Then we have reinforcements, the rewards that it might be a little bit complicated within the app, but it's still possible. I have those notifications who tell you that, congrats, you're amazing. You spent 3 minutes on Duolingo and you learned 5 new words. What a great person you are. So Duolingo is a language learning app for people.
Yeah, you read my thoughts. Yeah, if you allow me just to jump in, I want to talk about Duolingo. Okay.
Okay.
Because I see our time is running out, so I think that will be our last topic. My partner, she's a fan of Duolingo. She's using it freaking every day. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, she is Duolingo user expert, right? And she learned quite some Portuguese using Duolingo.
I'm learning Spanish also.
And we tend to go to Madeira quite often. We like that island and they speak Portuguese. So I see the benefit of it. Now, I guess where I was thinking, you mentioned very important things. Now I will harshly summarize it basically in one sentence, that from intrinsic to external, all motivational factors are used by app developers, but it seems that those apps that target intrinsic motivation based on self-determination theory, seems to me they are most effective in engaging users. But at the same time, I'm still struggling to think whether it's actually beneficial to the person. So let me give you an example. In Duolingo, I think there is definitely autonomy because you don't need a teacher. How amazing is that? Your teacher is the app. So you are maintaining autonomy. You don't need to buy classes. You don't need to go somewhere. You can do it whatever time you want. Basically, if you cannot speak, you can do it only text, right? So that's okay, one thing. And I see that you're thinking, so let me know afterwards what you think. Maybe I'm misjudging something. Well, when it comes to competence, it seems that there is that idea that be better every day, and there are levels, and you're definitely can see that you're excelling in a way because there is that progress line, and there are all these different topics or paths that you can go in the app. So it seems that it's worked on that end. Relatedness may be less. Yes, there is that ranking where are you first, second, third. There's that league. I'm not sure if people are engaging with each other that much, but I know that
they are engaging. That you can. They advise you if you have friends within Duolingo who are also using Duolingo. From some every day you get some send congrats to your friend Povilas for completing 30 days in a row.
But I guess where I was getting at, it's not at the level of, let's say, Tinder that motivates you to meet face to face, or Discord where you're engaging in a forum. So it's not that advanced, right? But still, it seems that all needs are met. But when and I hope she won't be mad at me, I don't think that she's using the app for learning the language, to be honest. The reason she's using that's just a personal anecdote, because she enjoys it. It's fun. And I see that there is some learning, but I see, look, Paulina, you're just acknowledge that you're just using it because it's fun and it's your computer game. For me, it's like playing Red Dead Redemption, Witcher, or whatever game I play, So at the end of the day, I still get into those ethical dilemmas that you can abuse self-determination as well. And there has to be some point where the person is mindful enough to say, oh boy, it's so intrinsically motivating, but still not beneficial to me. I'm still not going anywhere, So any short thoughts around that?
Yeah, short. I will try to keep it short. I am biased. I'm using Duolingo and I'm addicted to it as well. I know what you mean. Probably if I use Duolingo for now maybe more than a year and a half, and if I was going to the class of Spanish for a year and a half, my Spanish level would be much higher than it is now with Duolingo. On the other hand, of course, it's. I don't want to lose the streak. And I noticed that thought in my head that when I consider going to the class, I think about the Duolingo app, because if I go to the class, then the progress within the app won't be interesting anymore. But that if it won't be interesting anymore, then I will lose my streak because I won't use the app. It's a very stupid thought, but I have it. So I mean, again, it's not black and white. You still benefit from the app. And I mean, if I don't want to dedicate 2 times a week, hour and a half for Spanish lessons, I use that time for going to the gym. But Duolingo gives me an opportunity to spend 5 or 10 minutes every day for the app and still have a progress in my Spanish. So, I mean, again, it depends on your needs, and not everyone likes Duolingo. You don't appreciate Duolingo.
I like Duolingo, and this is why I don't use it.
Okay, so you use it as well.
Used to.
You
But I
used to,
noticed
okay.
what they are doing, and you won't get me those traits.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. I think that you are more sad because your
I'm just
partner is
being
spending more
pretentious.
time on on Duolingo than maybe instead
To
of
be
spending
honest,
it with you.
to be really honest, I noticed that my partner was much better at it, and I won't compete.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's definitely not black and white. And if you're gaining at least some benefit, and those 10 minutes are definitely, in my opinion, more useful than, I don't know, reading some irrelevant posts on politics if you're not interested in politics, for example. So, but it seems that you're interested in Spanish, and I hope that you're trying to use some Spanish.
Yeah, at least one time every year I go to Spain to practice and to see my progress in Duolingo.
Okay.
And maybe just if we talk about habits and what the apps use to help people form habits. So there's a very simple sequence that we try to implement in other apps as well, whether it's Gmail or Duolingo. So is the cue, action, and reward. So the very basic sequence from behavioral psychology, one of the first psychologists on our field. And it gives you the cue, whether it's usually it's a notification. Then it proposes you the action. So what it says that what action should you do, and the action should be as specific as possible so that you know what to do. And of course, we can talk about all the delicate things, not too difficult, not too easy, blah 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 blah. And then there is the reward that you get the reward for doing that action. Which motivates you, which makes you feel good. And because you feel good, you want to feel good again. So you come back to the app the next time. So this is the basic sequence of forming, how we form the habits.
Yeah,
and of the most difficult part for the app and for every person in our own lives is to be consistent. Because if we want to form a habit, it's not enough only to go with the sequence. You also have to be consistent. So that means that it won't work if you go to the gym on Mondays, then on Thursdays, and then maybe after 2 weeks. So you won't form a habit in this way. But if you go to the gym every day at a specific time, or you go on every week on Mondays, Wednesday, Fridays, then this consistency with time will help you form a habit.
Yeah, I guess I totally agree with what you're saying, and external motivation is important as well, of course. And we need compliments from our partners, from our family members. We need feedback that we are doing fine. So it's definitely important. And yeah, I'm biased in the sense that I tend to develop my life as much as possible that I wouldn't be a slave to external motivation. For example, that if a client in a psychotherapeutic setting is not expressing a lot of hype or how the person is benefiting, even if I see from their feedback that they are benefiting, I try to appreciate it. And even if they don't, I still sit through their experience. So reward is not a very good motivator. And when it comes to having such conversations like this, it's still a very new podcast, very small podcast. There's not a lot of listeners, but there's hope that there will be someday, but there's not right now. And it's definitely working to my detriment, then there's not enough engagement. But I'm still trying to do this because I see meaning in it. And I guess meaning is the word where what I was looking for in our conversation is that, yeah, that valued purpose. Why are you doing something? As Nietzsche said, I guess, if you know your why, you will overcome any how, basically, or any what. So
Yes.
so I think values are very important, and it's important to be aware of them and realize that whatever you're doing, you have to see if you're on, you have to have your internal radar to see if you're going the right way, essentially.
Yes, when if it's about my clients, or if someone asks me what to do to, I don't know, how make myself go to the gym, or how make myself go to the therapy, or whatever. The first question is, why do you want to do that?
Or why do you need to use an app, for example?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is also the thing that apps are working on, how to sell the idea that you need something. But actually, this is on the user side as well, that we as app creators can say that, wow, this is an amazing app, and show beautiful pictures, and how it's engaging, and how those people on the app are happy, and then you are excited to get that app because of that emotion that you see in their advertising, and then you buy that app. But if we want to make the user stick to the app, we can do that only to the users who already are intrinsically motivated to reach that goal that the app is created for. So if I wouldn't have a intrinsic motivation to learn Spanish, I wouldn't use the app. If I wouldn't see a meaning in going to the gym, I wouldn't go there. But because I know the answers, why am I doing that? And it's for some higher purpose. Then the app, every tool, therapy, it becomes only the assistant to reach that goal.
And I think that is the golden mine that companies should draw from, is that not encourage or manipulate users to stick to the app, encourage users to stick to their values. And if you help that, you won't need a lot of those tricks to maintain the user. The user will know very embodiedly why the person needs one thing or the other. So yeah, I mean, I think we can talk about this for hours, but I want to respect your time, Ieva. So just to finish, I usually like to ask this question, and I'll ask the same question to you. What are you taking from this conversation? What was like the maybe key ideas or key moments just spontaneously that come to mind? What would you emphasize? What do you think?
I think that I will, in general, have some reflections after our conversation, because I noticed that there were a few moments where I made some connections between experiences in my personal life and in my professional life that I didn't have before our conversation. So thanks to you.
Some free therapy, why not?
Yeah. And yes, well, and as always, I from these interviews, I leave with that idea that when we talk about people, about us, about human beings, it's way more complex than it is possible to discuss in 2 hours or 5 hours. And that we should keep in mind that uncertainty is it's not something you should get rid of. It's more something you have to learn to live with.
Embrace, right?
And embrace it. Yeah. And I am I will work on embracing the uncertainty that maybe I didn't explain all the things the way I would like to explain, or I left a lot of uncertainty or not very specific answers in our conversation. And yeah, it's just, oh well, I have to leave something for future conversations.
I like the idea that there are too many curious and too many suffering people for us to punish ourselves for being not perfect enough. So the fact that we are speaking, talking, sharing our thoughts, regardless how they are imperfect or not precise enough, I think people will find value. So definitely appreciate to have you here. Always interesting to talk to a colleague. I think that we connected on a different level in the beginning. So I like that as well. I think the beginning was also very wonderful, and the second part was also engaging. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. It was very interesting and inspiring as well to talk with you.